So good morning, everyone. Good morning, Facebook. This is another Monday Musings. I'm Janice Walters with Genesis Solutions Type 2 Diabetes, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, Lois Garner. Say
Hi,
hello, Lois.
this is Lois with As We Go. It's good to be here with you this morning.
All righty then. So last week, we talked about communication. And we talked about how important it is and how key it is in all kinds of relationships, business relationships, personal relationships. It doesn't really matter. Communication is the key of life, I think, because the more you are able to communicate clearly and well, then people understand your message, get your message, and are able to get an understanding of what it is you're trying to say or what you're trying to show them or tell them, right? Whereas if you are saying one thing and then your body is saying something else or your facial expression is saying something else, people get confused. Or when you need to be communicating, but you shut down and you don't communicate, you internalize, like sometimes I tend to do when I'm just not ready to have that conversation yet. So just knowing that communication is important. We wanted to kind of continue the conversation today because we wanted to talk about in relation to or in regards to our illnesses and our conditions, how does communication really play into that? So in other words, when you are in a family where you're the only one who has a condition, how do you communicate what it is that you need to communicate so that they understand this is what you need to do to keep yourself healthy and to keep yourself in a well-balanced way with your condition. And they don't necessarily have to, but they need to be able to respect what it is that you need to do. How do you have that conversation? I know that I've talked to people in my coaching and people on the group who are the only one in their family who has an illness or who has diabetes, and everybody else is pretty much normal. And so they now feel that they have to toe the line, or the person who has the diabetes feels that they need to be able to toe the line with them because they don't want to go through this by themselves. So how do you communicate that? Or if you already have a built-in support system, how does that conversation go? So let's just talk a little bit about that and kind of carry this conversation a little further in regards to our conditions, our illnesses, and how you communicate what it is that you need, because that's what you need. And so you need to be able to communicate that to folks around you. How do we do that? So Lois, you want to give us a couple of ideas on that?
Yeah, it's a hard one. And it's tricky too. And it depends how old you are, I think, because at all different stages of your life, you're communicating differently. So, I know when I was young, I was, being taken care of by my parents. I didn't have so much of a voice to be able to communicate those things. So that's a little harder. The younger that you are, the more age you get, the more you may be coming into communicating some of those things because you're understanding where you are in that process.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I'm just going to throw a little thing in here for parents who have young kids that have some sort of condition to continually include them in the process, in the conversation, and not just place on them what they think their feelings are or should be. I think that's a really critical communication piece between families. But as you get older, you just have to continue to have conversations.
Yeah.
Because what is for you now is not going to be in a year. It's not going to be in 5 years. It's going to change over time. And you're going to be discovering things about yourself medically that are going to change and shift. And so the more information that you discover, things might change for you. Yeah. The foods you eat might change. You may need to revisit conversations.
So you're saying then that the conversation is a continuous one, and it's always evolving and changing based on how long you've been in that conversation or how long you have your condition. things do change and the conversation has to change along with it. So that's an interesting concept because I know that when it's true, I think in a lot of relationships, relationships evolve and change over time. And sometimes it can be that you grow together or you grow differently or you grow apart based on the length of time and how you communicate and whether or not you communicate effectively or not. But I think with illness, it's the same thing. With your illness, you either then get to a place where you're able to accept your illness and know the routine that you have to maintain in order to stay well or to be optimal in your health. And so when you get to that point, then it becomes more routine and it becomes an expectation from you and the other people around you exactly what to do and what to expect based on the history, right? But how do you have the conversation with people in your family who are not on board with you and what your illness or your condition is, because they're not ill or they don't have that condition and they really don't want to live their lives like they do have that condition? How do you have that conversation with them? I think it's important that we need to know our why. Why are we wanting to be well? And what's important for us to be well? And knowing that and being convicted in that, I think is really important. I think we need to know what it is that we want for our lives in terms of our health. And once we know that we need to pursue that by hook or by crook, regardless of what people say, regardless of what people want you to do or want you to say. You need to know what's good for you and your health. And are you willing to go for that? And are you willing to stand for and be convicted in for your health? So having the conversation, how do you have that conversation?
Yeah, because some people are not going to understand it. You're going to have your core people who get it and live with you through it and fight with you, fight for you in it because they know.
Yeah.
And then there will be people that never know and don't need to. And then there will be people who just don't understand and don't want to. And you just let them go. Maybe they don't need to have a conversation.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't need to have that conversation with them. You just need to maintain what you need to maintain. And some people will not get it and don't necessarily have to get it. You're right. It's depending on how much work you want to do to educate folks or not, or whether they want to be educated. Some people don't want to know and don't want to be educated or don't want to be aware. So those people, it's just a waste of time, really, trying to convey whatever you need to convey to them because they're not even interested in anyway. But people that are engaged or enrolled in what's going on with you, who care about you, who are in your corner, then maybe it takes some effort and maybe it's worth the effort for you to communicate with them. But other people, doesn't really matter.
I think that's been an interesting thing for me. I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Like if you're trying to change your diet and eat a certain way because of what you're doing, and you're going to somebody's house and you can't eat all these foods, you might need to have a conversation, so that they understand where you fit and what you're doing, and so that there's not offense taken, but it doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be. There are people in my life who just don't understand it and still have a problem with when certain foods aren't eaten, and it doesn't mean that I don't love that they've been made or that they're there. It's just there's physical reasons why we're not partaking, and I can't always explain fully enough for it to be understood. I really have worked on that.
I think
But it's hard for everyone to understand it, I think.
Yeah, it is hard. And I think it's also hard when people who are engaged in entertaining or who love to entertain and to cook and all of that, they may take an offense or take it the wrong way when you don't participate in something that they've made or took the time to make. But I do believe it's a two-way street. It's a compromise because people have to understand that not everyone can enjoy their food. For whatever reason, whether it be health reasons or allergy reasons or whatever reason, sometimes something they prepared is not going to be conducive to somebody else's diet. And so be open to that and also be able to understand where that person is coming from medically so that you can adjust if you need to adjust or just be understanding if they need to adjust. I think it takes an open mind, and I think it takes people that don't take offense so easily when somebody doesn't eat their food or doesn't, indulge, that we need to be open to people's differences and people's allergies and people's illnesses and conditions. All of that plays into it. And so we need to be open. I used to do a lot of entertaining, so I know that that can be a challenge. And I was one of those people that loved to feed people. And when people were eating, I was happy because it means they were enjoying it. So when somebody didn't eat something, it would be like, okay, does it not taste good? But then if they had some kind of an allergy to it or they had some kind of an aversion to it, then that's understandable, right? Because people's tastes and palates are different. So open-minded and being able to understand that people are different and different foods affect different people and different diets affect different people. And what's good for one may not be good for somebody else. So just being aware of that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that. We have a lot of friends that, will come over and make all sorts of different meals because of the array of needs, and it's an interesting time to be alive because there are
Yeah.
so many different situations, and I wish that I had like just a magic wand I could wave and it would all be different, we were
Yeah.
all just eating at the same table and
And you touch this plate and
all the same
it's,
food and nobody had
yeah.
any health issues at all. And someday.
Or you have a magic wand and you touch that plate for this person who's sugar sensitive, and you touch that plate for somebody who's paleo, and you touch that plate for somebody who's vegan, and you touch that plate for somebody that's
Brilliant, right?
plant-based.
I'm
That would be
automatically
awesome. And just
yeah.
have everyone have exactly what they need. It doesn't have to be, you know what I mean? They don't have to eat the
Magic
same thing.
chef. Mm.
Yeah, just have it be what they want and what they need for their happiness. That would be perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. And when somebody invents that, they'll be rich. They'll be rich. So yeah, it's all about being open, and I think being understanding as well as knowing what it is that's good for you. You need to be aware of what's good for you. So yeah. So anything else you wanted to add to that, or that people that are listening today, let us know what kinds of challenges you may be facing at your home or in your circles with your conditions that you may have, where it's necessary for people to understand that you have a condition or that you have an illness or that you have a sugar sensitivity or that you have a seizure, condition, or that you have an allergy condition that prevents you or inhibits you from doing everything that they do. So let us know if you're meeting those challenges, and how do you have that conversation with those people? Is it an easy conversation to have? Is it a conversation that you feel very strongly about having when you need to, or you don't necessarily have the conversation, you just don't indulge? I think it's important for people to understand you if they care about you. And so I think that part of the communication is good depending on who that person is, what they mean in your life, if they mean anything, and what part they play. Because then it's important for them to understand you as best as they can, and for you to understand them as best as you can. so that you guys can communicate on all kinds of levels. And when you go out and do things together that they know, oh, she can't do that or she can't have that, they're aware, you know. So yeah, I think it's important. So let us know what you thought about today's Monday Musings, and let us know what kinds of challenges you may be facing when you are dealing with people in your family circles or in your personal or your friend circles, when you when your condition or your illness comes up as part of the subject of conversation. How do you communicate that? So yeah, very interesting conversation, part 2 of last week's communication. And how do you have that conversation? You got to be convicted in what it is that you need and know what it is that you need to have that conversation. So let us know if you are having those same challenges. So
Yeah.
thanks for being with us again today.
Yep, drop us a comment if you have
Yeah.
if you have one, and be gentle with yourself, because
Yeah.
it's all a journey. We're
Yeah.
all on it. So
We're all on it.
we'll
Yeah.
talk
And we all
soon.
need to get there. We'll talk soon. Have a great Monday and a great week.